I'm bootstrapping my business and I have no idea where to go. What you gotta do is reverse engineer your plan. Reverse engineering. Let's talk about reverse engineering. Before I jump into that though, if you're liking the content, if you're liking the videos, please do me a solid favor, subscribe, like, and share, and then push it out to everybody that you know. All right, with that being said, shameless self-plug there. With that being said, I like talking about the concept of reverse engineering businesses, all right? So not necessarily a business model, not getting too complicated as far as, the whole operating system of things, but reverse engineering your plan. Think about just like the same way as if you were starting a nice drawing, right? You start off with a sketch and then you add more things to it and then it becomes this, masterpiece, right? It's the same way they do it. It's kind of like that for businesses as well. I love the concept though of reverse engineering because you have the opportunity to tap into a vision of the future and then bring that back to whatever time period you're in right now. And it works kind of like this, all right? I like starting with a 3-year time frame. 3-year time frame. It's not incredibly unrealistic. It's not a 30-year business plan because, even at 3 years, it's far-fetched right now. At the pace that things are moving, economy's changing, society's changing, everything, right? But if you put yourself in a space and you think about what is my business gonna look like 3 years from now, you can start to imagine things. You can start to envision things, right? And it's more of a realistic benchmark, more of a realistic place than say 10, 15, 20 years. So you begin with a 3-year time frame and you also begin with the end in mind, meaning that at the 3-year mark, what is my business going to look like? All right. So you have to come in and then reverse engineer your goals, reverse engineer your actions, and then reverse engineer your benchmark. Remember, it's 3 things that fall into, remember, it's 3 things that fall into place here. It's gonna be goals, it's gonna be actions, and it's gonna be benchmarks, okay? You have to break those down. Now, if you've been looking at business development or anything like that for a while, you probably heard the term BHAGs, right? B-H-A-G-S. It's big, it stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals. So it's a noble concept, and although I'm not a big fan because I think they often tend to be unrealistic, I think they give us a good, decent sense of direction, at least in the big thinking, space of things, and not necessarily that they're gonna, come about, exactly as you're envisioning right now, but at least you have a direction, right? So you can start taking action in a certain direction, and if it takes a BHAG, a Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal to get you to that point, that's fine, but set it up for 3 years. So in 3 years, what do I want my business to look like? All right, think as big as you can and as realistically as possible. All right, I know it's almost like a catch-22, but put yourself in a space where you feel like you would be stretching your own self, you would be stretching your goals, and it may feel like it's almost unattainable, but you feel like there's something in there that can tell you like, yeah, you got that, you can definitely do that. So you want to stretch yourself when you're setting these goals, right? You don't want to set up yourself for success by starting off with small goals that can be attained in 6 months, right? No, play big. Think big, think as realistically as possible, right? Consider your resources and the stuff that you have to start off with, all right? Now the 2 questions, and you want to keep it simple, all right? We're not going to build a business model. This is reverse engineering. We are creating the rough draft version of what eventually is going to turn into our business. Most entrepreneurs jump into business because they want to make money, all right? So at the 3-year mark, I want to be making this amount of money, all right? So what do you want to take home? Do you want to take $100,000, $200,000? It's just a number. At this point, it's an arbitrary number, all right? You're creating a picture, right? And again, think about it, sit with it, think big, think as realistically as possible, and try to keep it simple, right? I just want a number, this is what I have. We're gonna use that number as one of the building blocks for this vision that we're trying to put together. So the second question is, how many hours do you want to be spending in your business at the 3-year mark? Very important. We're not just in it for the money. We're in it for the money and the freedom. Yeah, we can have financial freedom, but we also want the time freedom to own our options and actually run a business, right? So think about those 2 questions. How much do you want to make at the 3-year mark, and how many hours do you want to be putting into your business? Now, the second part of this is setting up your actions, okay? What's it gonna take to get you to that space? Now you know that you want to say, now you know that you want to make, for example, $100,000. Now, what is it gonna take? If you're selling widgets and each widget is $100, how many do you have to sell to get to that point where you're taking home $100,000? And do the math. I mean, it's napkin math. It's really not complicated at all. And figure out what that is, right? What we're trying to do here is estimate the income that we need to have at the 3-year mark. And that's gonna include your payroll, so what you wanna be taking a year, that's $100,000. And the second part is gonna be the fulfillment, right? You have to consider that. What does your team look like? If you only wanna work 8 hours a day or 5 hours a day, how many people do you need to have in your team at that point? How much is it gonna cost you to have those people inside your team? What resources are you gonna need at that point? Who are your vendors? And again, this whole thing is a rough draft of the point that we want to get to, right? We're just looking for some direction here. But you're gonna end up, if you take this exercise and really commit to it and you sit down with it for a couple of hours, you're gonna end up with a decent picture. The amount of money that you need to be generating at the 3-year mark, and a 50,000 foot view of what your team looks like, what your resources look like, and the type of relationships that need to have happen at the 3-year mark, all right? So now we have that, we create the 3-year picture. And again, it's something that's pushing you out of your comfort zone. Do not, set small goals that you can accomplish in 6 months. Push yourself, all right? Not necessarily be hags or, go insanely crazy and stuff that's not, really attainable. So now you're there with this picture, you have an idea of where to go or what it's gonna take, at the 3-year mark. Now we're gonna break that down. All right, so now you have a number of the income that you need to be generating at that point. You know how much you want to be taking home. You know how many hours you want to be working. We're going to take that same process and break it down into benchmarks. At the 2-year benchmark, what does that look like? How much are you going to be taking home? How many hours are you working at the 2-year benchmark? What's the income in the business and what's your fulfillment, all right? What are your expenses, your team, what's happening at the 2-year mark? So you repeat the exact same exercise, just cut down the, so you repeat the exact same exercise, just cut down the timeline to 2 years, and we're gonna do that again. So at the 1-year mark. And the numbers obviously get smaller and smaller, right? Because we don't have the capacity at the 1-year mark. We don't have the capacity that we would have at the 3-year mark. Right now, at the 3-year mark, we have more people. We have, hopefully more revenue. The business has grown a little more. And you're still developing all that at the 1-year mark. So what we're trying to do here is end up with an actionable list of things that we need to accomplish and dial it down to the 6th month. And we're gonna do the same process at the 6th month mark. Eventually getting to your 3-month list of actions, right? So I love breaking things down quarterly. Implement strategies and goals on a 3-month basis, all right? So this quarter, we're gonna hit this, this, and that. The next quarter, we're gonna hit that, that, and that, all right? So you break it down, but that's how you get to it, right? So you begin with this, bigger picture that's at the 3-year mark. You break it down to year 2, you break it down to year 1, 6 months, eventually getting to the 3-month mark. Now you know, right, that to get to that number that you're looking for at the 3-year mark, there's a lot of things that you have to come in and then do at the 3-month mark and stay consistent with those things. And again, this whole thing, it's almost like a process of elimination. So you begin with that big picture at the 3-year mark and you start getting rid of, the number of team members, the revenue, and dial it back to a point where you get, okay, I know what I have to do for the next 3 months because that's my benchmark. So now you have a 3-month benchmark, a 6-month benchmark, year 1, year 2, and then year 3, right? That's how you reverse engineer your business. Now, let me tell you what's gonna happen, right? It's probably not gonna go down smoothly as that, right? You're gonna write things down, you're gonna have benchmarks, you're gonna have actions, and along the way, those things are gonna change. That's why I like dialing it back to 3 months, because you have the ability to pivot a lot easier than if you have this big fat machine that's running for a 3-year period, right? So break it down into consumable actions and set up your strategy in 3-month periods so you can come in and then check if it's working, if it's not, if you need to pivot, if you need to do something else, if you need to think bigger, maybe you surpassed the number that you thought you were gonna have, 3 months ago, and now you can double up on that, right? So, but it all begins with reverse engineering your business. Take that picture, take that vision of where you want to be in 3 years, how much money you want to be making, what your team kind of looks like at 3-year mark, and how much time are you investing in your business at that point. Do not leave that out, right? That's 90% of the equation. In my head, it doesn't make sense to generate wealth if we have to be stuck to if we have to be attached to our business 24/7 and not have a life, all right? So life by design, people. Reverse engineer your business, big picture, figure out those 2 questions, and then work it backwards from there. If you like the content, let me know, drop a comment below, subscribe, like, and share. Stay focused, you got this.